So come aboard and bring along all your hopes and memes. PeePaw together, we will find a place that we are looking for. The place is One Piece. Oh my God, the One Piece live action came out, and we here at Net Peckers, well, I don't know, we're going to talk about it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fabulous. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Net Peckers. My name is D-Max. I am joined with my fabulous co-host, with the most host, PeePaw Riverter. How you doing, dude? How's it going?
I'm doing quite well, D-Max.
Yeah.
How are you today, sir?
I'm trying to like come in like hot for the stream, or for the video, for the recording, but I don't want to come in too hot because I know you just got off like a little nap. So I don't want to like
well,
just, like,
us old people, we have to take those little afternoon nappies,
Well, it's reasonable that you would do that because there's been a lot of like good, content to kind of fall asleep to here recently, I mean, kind of like, but we're not talking about any of that. We're talking about the Netflix, the One Piece Netflix live action. This is not really going to be so much related to the commentary stuff. This is more just like, it's just like it was a thing that I got really excited by, and hey, this is a platform for us to just talk and like kind of let loose and peck some nets over some silly nonsense. So if there's anybody out there who's looking for some sort of drama bait, this isn't the stream for you, though I'm sure you'll find some way to be able to twist this, as they always do. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to like, so okay, for a little bit of background, D-Max, hello, am a pretty big anime fan, have been for pretty much my whole life. As far as like, as soon as I was able to watch or consume media, I was interested in anime because it was like on Toonami, which was like the kind of the late hour block on Cartoon Network. Before they really started doing Adult Swim kind of spun off of Toonami. So I was like, I was really into Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Inuyasha, like those types of anime, which are like I guess more like Americanized, sort of like they were the first to kind of come in. Same with Pokemon and things like that, right? So like that's my backup with this. And then like recently I started getting into One Piece, and it's fabulous. It's a fantastic show, but I've been having a hard time because like I really like the show. I really think that it like kind of transcends a lot of the genre of like anime, but I've been trying to like, recommend it to people. And the problem is that I found, at least just within this community, too, people don't like anime. They really have like a big wall up there. So, Riv, I'm kind of curious for you. Have you ever seen like an actual anime? I don't think I've ever actually asked you that. Like, do you know of any anime that you've seen?
Well, that's it kind of all depends on what's the word I'm looking for? How rigid you want to be on what is anime, right?
It can be as loose as you want. Like, that you know about that movie Milo and Otis?
Yeah.
That was filmed in Japan, so technically it's an anime.
Okay. So if we want to get kind of loosey goosey, right? Okay. When I was in my teens, right? Early to mid teens, there was a little cartoon that was imported from Japan called the Transformers. Right?
Okay.
So I watched that. I don't know if that's technically what you would call.
That counts. I think that counts.
Okay. There was also another one that was imported around the same time. I think it was called. What was it? It had Bebop, and they would come. Their ships would come together to Voltron. I think it was called.
Voltron.
Maybe?
Yeah. They had a like a recent redoing of that everybody was into there for a minute. Yeah, Voltron. All those Super Sentai kind of things. Yeah.
And I have seen probably maybe a half a dozen of the episodes Cowboy Bebop, which I know is
huge, big deal. Yeah, big deal anime. That's another one where I would say that kind of transcends the medium because it's so like artfully done. It's like Studio Ghibli films, like Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro, those types of things. Like it's weird because like I've come to realize this, right? Because given that I've watched anime my whole life, I don't make a distinction from it versus other things, or up until recently, I guess I haven't. But now I kind of get that, like where people kind of have a hard time with anime. But like with the Studio Ghibli stuff and with like, yeah, Cowboy Bebop is another good example of an anime that kind of like gets out of that. It's like you'll have people who will kind of come into it just because they've heard so much about like the artfulness of it and they just want to give it a shot. Cowboy Bebop is actually a really great anime for that because it's so short. It's only one season. So it's super easy to get through and the story is very, very good. Like it's very powerful, but it takes its time. It holds no punches and you're going to carry that weight.
And probably the last one that was probably, and I don't know if this really classifies or not, when my boys were probably in their early teens, maybe preteen, they got into watching, what was it? The Last Airbender.
Oh, okay. So,
and I don't know if that's really considered or not.
Yeah. So, well, the Last Airbender is funny because there's been numerous online arguments like about Avatar: The Last Airbender because it is technically like it's one of those things where it's not an anime because it wasn't made in Japan. I believe it was actually animated in Korea. I think is where like a lot of like the most of the animation frames kind of came from. Digital, art versus like the drawn art, that kind of thing. It's obviously supposed to be like anime. So I used to be at some point, I used to kind of be a little bit more hard nosed, like, no, like Avatar is not an anime. But it's like, then I don't know. I grew a pair. I got a girlfriend or two or three.
Yeah.
And then I realized like, this doesn't really matter as much. Like anything can kind of be anime. It's like, if you squint hard enough, it looks like an anime. So it's, but that was a good show, man. Oh my God. It had a lot of good stuff in it.
They really, I know they enjoyed, I mean, they watched it religiously. And
that's another epic.
I think, because I think is it on like maybe Netflix now or something? The entire
I don't
series?
know. It might be on Netflix now. I know that was another thing with Avatar Last, because it was a Nicktoons exclusive thing.
Okay.
And there was like some weird controversy too, because the most recent one that came out, the Korra stuff, that was like the sequel to that series. I don't know, it had some sort of like a licensing problem because they wanted to put out like the most recent season on TV, but they weren't able to for some reason. I'm not exactly up on that whole thing, but that one's always been a little bit interesting. Like the lore for like Avatar: The Last Airbender, like behind the scenes, is interesting. There's a few people who have done some really great breakdowns of like the series and how it declined and all of that stuff. But to tie it back to One Piece, actually, though, I think Avatar is actually a really good example. If people have seen Avatar: The Last Airbender and they're not familiar with what One Piece is, I would say they're actually they're kind of similar. Not exactly similar, but very similar. It's, you've got a kid. Well, oh no, you don't think so? Well, similar in like,
okay, here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
I think there's some of the same life lessons.
Oh yeah, that's the point.
Can be taken away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
good versus evil. It's,
of course,
it's people who get caught in the middle and having to make the hard choices. And so, I mean,
let's get into that. So,
all right.
Like, okay, so I am curious. I just want to know, just like generally speaking, like what was your impression of One? Because I made poor Riv here sit through the entirety of the live action for One Piece that came out on Netflix, and just for this show, just so that we could get this take right here, right now. So I'm curious, PeePaw, what do you think? What did you think? As somebody, how old are you again? What are you, 55?
I'll be 55 in November.
Okay, so as a 55-year-old straight white male, what did you think of Avatar or Avatar? No, what did you think of One Piece live action?
Okay, so when you first said, "Hey, I want you to watch this because I want us to discuss it," I was like, I drew in a sharp breath. I was like, because this is not the type of stuff that I consume.
Right.
But you being the friend that you are, I said, okay, I committed to do this. When the opening monologue was Ian McShane, I was like, okay, I'm definitely piqued because I like that actor. And then when it was about pirates, I immediately texted you and I said, first of all, you didn't say it was about pirates. I don't know if you remember that text or
I
not,
do, I
right?
do. I got excited when
And
you said that because it was those two combinations of
yeah,
I think you sent that
yeah,
first, and then you said, and you really liked the voice actor or the,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it
and I was
makes
like,
sense.
"Yeah,
And I was like, so
gotcha."
the first time, the very first sit down, I watched the first 4 episodes. I think there's a total of 8.
Okay.
So I watched about half of the series. There were some things about it that I was like, okay, this is definitely marketed, or I felt like was a little bit more towards, I'm gonna say 20 somethings,
Okay.
late teens,
Well, let me tell
that
you.
type of, yeah,
So, One Piece is a series very much like Dragon Ball or Naruto or
yeah,
Bleach or all these other anime that are out there that are known as shonen. Shonen,
yeah.
I don't know the exact translation, but it pretty much just means like entertainment for young boys
Okay,
versus shojo, which is entertainment for young girls. So it's like
okay,
think about like the type of
yeah,
like
sure.
cartoons and stuff that we have in the States and like how some of it's marketed more to boys and some of it's
Mhm.
marketed more towards girls, and then there's stuff that's like just generally for everyone.
Yeah,
So that's what One Piece is a shonen. So
yeah,
like you saying that, I don't think that's like that. I don't consider that an insult or anything like that.
yeah.
It's just what it is. That's what it's
Um,
trying to do.
but not getting too deep into it, but very, very, very broad stroke right now.
Okay.
Um, I'll put it like this. I recommended it to after watching it, I actually recommended it to some of my coworkers. One of them who
Really?
is 62 years old.
Wow.
He
Okay.
watched it and loved it.
Wow. Oh my god, that's gonna make me cry. Listen, you don't understand because like here's the
Yeah.
thing. I'm gonna come right out the gate and say we might end up getting into spoilers. So if there's anybody out there who hasn't seen it, you might just want to get off this and go watch it and then maybe come back if you don't mind, or if you don't mind spoilers. It's only season
Yeah.
one, and this is a series
Yeah.
that's like up at like episode. The anime at least is up in like
Yeah.
1,100, I think. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of content. It's not like it's a huge spoilers or anything like that. We'll only talk
Yeah.
about stuff that happens in the first season of the live action. But uh oh boy, I lost my train of thought. Um
Good thing you can get all this out
oh
and you
yeah.
don't look like you have Alzheimer's or something like me.
Exactly. That would suck if I just kept this in. Okay, spoilers. I don't think that the beginning of the, One Piece is a it's a roller coaster ride. Like
Mhm.
it's a what's the easiest way I can explain it? It's something that picks up momentum. Like the beginning of the story is not. It's good. It's
It's a slow
pretty.
burn. It's a slow
Yeah.
burn.
It's like,
Yeah.
but once you get into it, because the thing is with One Piece is that One Piece,
Yeah.
like where One Piece excels is two things, and really it kind of like these two things kind of carry the rest of the show, and everything else is done just good enough to where it's fine. Um, the characters are really distinct. Like they're very specific. Like I'm
Oh,
not
yes.
saying that they've never been done before, but it's like they're very distinct in the way that they're written, in the way that they're portrayed. And then the world building is phenomenal. Like there's a whole history, a whole like it is an epic. Like I keep on saying epic. I'm not saying
Yeah.
like, oh, it's epic. It is epic. I'm saying it is an epic. It is literally that style of storytelling where there is a huge, broader world. I mean, there's a point in the series where you saw a map of the Grand Line, how they got into it. Nami was holding that.
Yep.
Like that is all stuff from the manga, where it originally kind of was, and then from the anime as well. It's like that, like all those islands and everything that you see on that map are all places that are named and we have seen before at some point, or if they haven't been seen or shown, we at least have some monicum of understanding of what those places are and how they function. It's wild, and it's a whole huge world. So like the beginning of this story is a little bit harder. I would say it's deceptive for how deep the story is, because you just look at it on its surface and it's like, oh, it's a story about this kid who wants to be king of the pirates. The only way he can do that is by finding this big treasure by this other guy called the One Piece, right? But you unpeel that banana, let's call it, and you get down to like the actual fruit of it, and it is like so rich and so like it's just It's incredible. You actually said something though, Peepaw, to me about this that I thought was interesting
It,
because you had a little theory
oh,
after
oh,
watching this stuff, and I'm curious, what did you
you
think
think
about it?
what an insightful? I have an insightful comment.
Yeah, no,
No.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. So the One Piece, right? So the whole thing is the Pirate King is no more, right? So he's like, go seek out my treasure, the One Piece.
right,
And then okay, so the way I took that, right, is the One Piece is not so much a physical tangible object. It's not like a physical object that they could touch, feel, hold, whatever. The One Piece is the adventure that these people are going to go and live in true freedom, not beholden to anybody, right? To go
yeah,
onto the
freedom,
seas and be pirates, right? To be,
be
uh
themselves, be
be
free.
themselves. And the thing of it is that there's this kind of a running joke, and they're like, "Well, he's a pirate." Well, but he doesn't act like a pirate. Well, but
He's a
he's not
different
one of
kind of pirate.
he's a
Yeah.
different kind of pirate, right? Um,
Which is not something that's
so
ever stated in the show. It's
yeah,
probably it's interesting to note the distinction between like the way that the live action portrays Luffy and the way
yeah,
that the anime and the manga portray Luffy. Luffy in
yeah,
the anime and manga is a lot he's a cartoon character. He's a lot less
yeah,
like I would say that like Inaki, who's the actor who plays Luffy in the live action, his portrayal
yeah,
of Luffy is a lot less dumb, which is totally
yeah.
fair because to have a character as stupid as Luffy, like Luffy's not like stupid. Well, he's pretty stupid. He's pretty stupid, but he's not like well, he's kind of an absolute idiot, but he's not like it's weird. The way that Inaki plays him though is a lot more like doe-eyed, innocent, just very like
Yeah,
puffed out chest kind of thing. He's got that like sort of like he's Brazilian, so I can't say Latino, but he's got that bravado. You know what I mean? He's got
yeah,
like that gusto to him.
yeah,
Um, and that is Luffy, but it's a little bit more like silly and goofy and over the top, in the show. And he's a lot more flippant too. Like the way that Inaki plays Luffy is a lot more like direct. It's a lot more like, no, I'm just
yeah.
like here, which is how Luffy is, but it's not like Luffy's thing is like more so just like, yeah, whatever. Like if somebody's explaining something to Luffy and it goes on for more than 3 sentences, Luffy just goes, it's too complicated. I'm not going to be able to understand that. And he just moves on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. So basically, like maybe he has ADHD, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, yeah, too many words, and let's just go do it.
Right. Yeah.
And let the winds carry the seeds where they may, right?
Yeah.
And we'll deal with it as it comes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, you know, fiddle dee dee, I'll worry about that tomorrow type
Right.
thing.
Yeah. And
So
so
yeah,
sorry, not to get too far away from it though, because I
yeah,
one of the things that I want to praise the live action for a lot is while not telling the story verbatim, the way that it has been presented in past mediums, it did a very, very good job of conveying what the story is to a new audience, right? The fact that
mm,
you, after watching this season, came away with that like with that hypothesis
yeah,
for what the One Piece is.
yeah,
Again, it was another thing where when you DM me that,
yeah,
I like almost started crying because it's like it's so like I'm so glad, like I'm so happy that like
yeah.
that was what was conveyed because that is the most popular, still to this day, the most popular fan theory for what the One Piece is. And
Okay.
people didn't start theorizing, I think, about that in that way until let's call it like what would probably be like season 3 of what the Netflix live action would be. It was far down the road before people really started trying to put 2 and 2 together with that because there's
Yeah,
just so much more there kind of. Now, I will say this, and I told you this too. Oda, the creator of the series, has
yeah,
come out and he has stated that the One Piece is a real thing. It is a physical item of some sort.
yeah.
We don't know what it
Sure.
is, but it's something. Is what he said. It's something, not just some ethereal thing or whatever. And and I'll say this because it's not a spoiler. It's a meme that was going around, and I'm sure people have seen
Yeah,
it before. There's the meme of Whitebeard going, "The One Piece! The One
yeah,
Piece is real!" That's a real thing that happens in the show. We'll get introduced to One Piece like further down, but he's a big deal in the show.
yeah,
And that's him confirming that the One Piece is real because there's a lot of people in this world, as you see in the live action that don't believe that the One Piece is a real thing. They're just jaded to it. Nami even has a line where she says it's been like 20 years, or it's been like, I can't remember what amount of time. I think it's 20 years. It's like, you think at some point, like they would have found it, somebody would have found it by now if it did exist. But that's the thrill of it, is that like, it is real. It does exist. And it has been this amount of time and nobody's ever seen it. And part of the fun of the show is like, exploring the various reasons as to why people haven't seen it. There's the guy at the Bartier. This is getting into spoilers now. There's the guy at the Bartier, the Zeph, the lead cook, he is somebody who went to go try to find the One Piece, and he got his ass slapped. I mean, by the just trying to, like, he got into the Grand Line and he got smacked out of it. This is a very common occurrence. It's literally known as the pirate graveyard. This is a very, very hard thing to do. And it sets like the bar, because like Luffy is this like carefree guy who's just looking at it like, yeah, it's going to be an adventure. And I don't know, there will be some hard times, but like, who cares? Whatever. That sounds like fun, kind of a thing. Giant monster. Ooh, who cares? Like, whatever. We're just going to go have a good time. But it's serious. It's a serious venture. Everybody who's around him knows how serious this is, because they all, they've all heard it be called the pirate's graveyard, and yet Luffy wants to go off and do it. And it's just, there's something really like Luffy as a character, kind of like, he kind of carries the show in a way. The rest of the characters are really good too, but Luffy, there's something about Luffy where like once he worms his way into your heart, you can't, like, you just want to see him win. That's what it was for me. At some point, I just went, God, because he's annoying sometimes. He's strange and weird, and he does that's just like, what the f-? But the guy, he's light. Like the guy, it's like, I love these types of characters that are like Sora from Kingdom Hearts is another one of these, where it's just like, they're just big, bright patches of sunshine. Nothing can like bog them down, and it makes it so much more crazy when you do find the moments where they actually do get bogged down. So, not to talk, too much, because I just love One Piece. I could keep on going on, but I am curious, like, was there a part, or maybe a few parts, if you can think of, like anything from the series that really stuck to you, like any scenes that you thought were really good that you took away and just, I don't know.
There's a couple that I think probably, for me, were very, interesting. There's the scene, again, spoilers here, people.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Zoro has been defeated, right?
Yeah. Oh,
and
so good.
A Monkey, right? Monkey D. Luffy, has a moment of doubt, because he's the one who, Luffy is all about not only pursuing his dream, which is to find the One Piece to become the Pirate King, but he's even more so about keeping his friends' dreams alive and encouraging them to pursue them, and not allowing anything to stand in their way.
Right.
And so
even him.
And so he encouraged Zoro to undertake this challenge, and Zoro lost horribly.
Yeah. He got slapped.
Got slapped. It was bad. But he's sitting there and he's questioning everything and anything. And he has his moments of doubt. And when that was occurring, going on, right, his friends rallied him, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is an important thing to take away, right? And that's not unique. That's not something that, this something to show. No, that's happened in many different stories, movies, even, right? There's when the hero of the show or whatever has their moments of doubt, and their friends or their compadres, the people who they're going through these things with, rally them, and they come back. And not only do they come back, but they come back stronger, right? because even more determined. And so, but that's such a great life lesson, and why it's so important on how and why you want to make sure those people that you have around you are those type of friends. Because when you have these moments of doubt, when you get slapped, right, you've got your wounds, you want them there to kind of help pick you up and say it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We still have the dream. We're still going to pursue this. So I think that was really good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that
The
one a
other,
lot too. Go ahead. Go ahead.
the other one was when he added in the cook to the mix,
Sanji.
and when Sanji and Zoro start having this, for the lack of a better word, battling for who is going to be the right hand person, right?
It's so, oh my God. It's just everything you everything you discover, everything that you're saying about this. It's like, I'm so proud of the live action. Keep going. Keep going.
So these two guys are competing because it's like you said, Luffy is infectious. And once he gets involved into your life and his eternal optimism, right, that he has, and like we discussed previously, it can wane, but
sure,
when it comes back with a vengeance. And he discovers just how, and the thing of it is we saw season one, or at least my takeaway in season one is we've just saw like a pebble of sand.
Oh yeah.
Of the potential that Luffy has. Luffy is right now is discovering just what his abilities really truly are, right? His core secret power is his belief in his friends and their belief in him. That's the core of that's where his
it's like his self-determination, but also his ability to like trust his friends and just trust in general.
But as his friends fall or become in danger, that's when you see him really become the leader, right? Really see him step up. And so when these two guys are, and the thing of it is here's what's hilarious. Both of these guys have this certain air of like, they project this air of cool, like, this is lame, this is whatever. But they both truly love Luffy.
Yeah.
And so they're competing. It's almost like, I love him more. And then, no, I love him more. And I'm going to show. And so I'm going to wipe out all these people just to show how much, and what I feel like is going to happen later on is those two have probably become so fast and furious as far as friends, right? That in itself is going to become a very, very strong force to deal with.
Oh,
just that bond.
I gotta tell you, because I'm getting goosebumps. The way that they're explained now in the series is Sanji and Zoro are the wings of the Pirate King, is the way that they're being described now. It's I mean, it's so cool too, because like it's just, there is it's the, like I said, it's the way that all of the characters are portrayed, right? And the fact that, because like you said, they're like, Sanji and Zoro are similar. They're similar in a lot of ways, but they are distinct, the way that Zoro operates is not the way that Sanji operates. And the things that they would do and the decisions that they would make are not the same. So it's really interesting, because throughout the series there are many, I'll just say it, because you know it anyway, because you just said it. These guys are constantly at odds throughout all of the series. It doesn't really come to a head, and they don't really start butting heads that much until, like I said, like probably partway through what's going to be season 2. But you see that, and that's why it's so interesting when because this happens a lot, right? Luffy is not a very mature person. He's not
No.
like he's not a leader. Like he's not a very good leader at all. And he doesn't, to be honest with you, he really doesn't get that much better at it. He has his moments. He has his moments where he realizes he's going to have to take like a personal sacrifice for his crew because that's what's best. But he doesn't think about things that way. Obviously, he would do that if somebody pointed it out to him, but he's just not thinking about things that way.
Yeah.
So what is really interesting is that, like you said, Luffy's strength does become his friends and his crew, his crew to a degree. And what's interesting is there is a lot of times where Zoro and Sanji disagree, but there are a few moments where they do agree, and that's interesting because it's like that's like the points when the entire crew is coming down on Luffy and being like, Luffy, no, you can't do this,
Yeah.
So yeah, the dynamics between the crew is because in other, shows, it's very easy just to build up a dynamic between person A and person B and, person C and person A versus person B and person C. Right. But the dynamic being there because like this early, for you to understand this early on, that these two characters are kind of at odds or are in like some sort of a rivalry together. Again, just chef's kiss. The conveyance of this is just perfect. So I got to ask you then at this point. So, well, you know what? I'll say this first. You told me that you actually identify a lot with Luffy, that you kind of see maybe yourself in him or something.
Sure, because I mean, Luffy, as we just most recently learned, I have a habit of always seeing the good in people and always, trying to, and that in itself can be problematic because the bottom line is some people are not good people, and they will wind up letting you down, and they will wind up, hurt you. You wind up, it won't turn out good. We'll just put it that way. And I see that in Luffy, right? Luffy, when he believes in the goodness of all people, right? Even like I've noticed, like even with some of the quote bad people, the mini bosses or whatever, the little warlords or whatever you want to call them that he confronts, he still tries to do everything he can to not have it be like a battle. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
he
just
works
like,
in increments. He doesn't just go straight for the kill shot. He's like, all right, come on, we're just having fun here, but like, stop.
So I see that, right? And I'm fairly certain if that's the type of character that this way this person is written, I foresee him having some sadness, some heartache, some pain in his life in this series, because that type of optimism, I don't, maybe it's not so bad in this fictitious world, but in the real world, it inevitably always just winds up biting you in your butt. And
Well, I'll tell you this much. This is the thing about Luffy, which is interesting, is Luffy is like, even if he were a real person, he's a very different type of dude. Like there are two times, and I won't spoil it. There are two times in the series where Luffy gets utterly broken. They happen around the same time, but not exactly. And both times are because of his friends, and one time is because of his family. And it's just because it's like let's call it a loss. Okay. Those are the moments where because like there's only, I think, like I said, out of those two, there's only one of those where he actually, it's the only time in the series he's ever done this. He actually questions whether or not he can be King of the Pirates. He actually kind of wavers from that. And it takes a whole other character that hasn't been introduced yet. Actually, I think he's been mentioned, but not introduced. To like basically go like, Luffy, shut up. Like you're hurt right now, And even that, he doesn't take it. He's like, I don't accept that. And it takes him a little bit of time and, some goading to kind of get out of that. there's a lot of life lessons. Like that's what I really love about One Piece is that there's a lot of these shows, that they will do like you don't need life lessons, you don't need morals in order to make a good story, but it's the if you're going to do that, you have to show and not tell. And there's no character in One Piece that ever just goes, "Well, this is actually what the moral of the story is." It doesn't happen that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
You learn so we've talked about Sanji, we've talked about Zoro. Um, Nami is a great example of this kind of thing. Nami is a very different. She's almost like kind of the opposite of Luffy in a way.
Yeah.
She's very cynical. She's very smart. She's very intelligent, very witty. She doesn't rely. She doesn't. At the beginning of the series, she doesn't believe in friends. She doesn't believe in that shit. She's just done with it. Um, she has one goal in mind, and again, spoilers. That's to save her village and to just rely on herself to do that because
Yeah.
she feels as though she's been kind of betrayed by everyone and that she can't trust a pirate certainly, but just can't trust anybody. She's basically just kind of looking after herself. But then we come to find out that she's actually doing this on behalf of the village. This culminates in my favorite scene, maybe in all of anime, but they did a very good job of portraying it in the live action. It's the scene where Nami, Arlong, who's like her boss, the mafia guy, like shark dude, he owns this town and he's been telling Nami for years that like, hey, if you can pay this amount of money, I will basically, you can buy back the village that I've been terrorizing that you came from, and we can let bygones be bygones, and I'll just walk away from it, right? If you just give me the money. So the entire time that she's been doing all of this stuff, kind of like, honestly, a lot of the stuff that she's been doing too has been sort of eating away at her soul, because like I don't think she wants to be a thief. I don't think she wants to, like, she likes money. She enjoys money, as who doesn't, right? Because this is something that's not portrayed very well in the live action, because it's not the cartoon version of her, but she is, she's kind of vain. She's got a vanity to her, her looks really matter. The way she dresses really matters. The way that people see her really matters to her. So like money is like kind of like it's something that she's never had, and so she really kind of like glamorizes that. But this culminates into the scene where, after so long of just telling Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hats to get the hell out of there, to leave, the village, and just to leave her be and like let her die, basically let the village burn and like whatever, just like, because at that point it's friendship, right? Like at that point, what she has is friendship, and she's just thinking, I don't want you guys to die for me. I don't want you guys to, to waste your time over me, because I've been this terrible person. She doesn't feel like she deserves it. And she has that moment where she breaks down and she just looks up at Luffy and she says, "Luffy, help me," and Luffy puts the straw hat on her head and then walks away short distance and then just starts screaming into the sky, "Of course I will." Like, that is such a, like there's moments like this, right? In the series, there's moments where certain people join the crew, but they're not a part of the crew until they have their moment. For Nami, that's her moment. For Zoro, after getting the defeat, after taking the biggest L and holding his sword up in the air and saying, which there's a few lines in the show that I was a little bit disappointed by, because I didn't think that, like, the way they were worded, at least in the anime, and the way they were written in the manga, I felt like was more impactful. It was more direct, right? Zoro didn't end up saying this, but I wish that he had said something, because what he says in the anime, at least, is I vow to become the world's greatest swordsman. You got that, King of the Pirates? And then he passes out. And what that conveys is that, like, Zoro's has this moment where he's like, because like at that point he's broken. Like he's like, he's looking, honestly, and they did a pretty good job of conveying this in the live action. When he goes up against Mihawk, it's like looking at a cliff. It's like looking at like a mountain, This guy, Dracula Mihawk, he's one of the 7 warlords of the sea. He's so powerful. He doesn't have a crew, by the way. A little bit of spoilers. He doesn't have a crew. There's no crew to this guy. This guy is a one-man band, all right? He is so strong. He is so powerful that the world government just goes, you know what? We want you on our side. We'll let you do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, just so long as you work for us. If we ask you to come, you come for us, you know? Yeah. And Zoro, I think when he finally like sees him, you know, he has this moment where he's like, all right, it's time. It's my time to finally become, you know, world's greatest swordsman. And Luffy doesn't want to stay in his way for that. And then he tries it. And then he's like confronted with the reality that, nope, this guy is much stronger than you ever thought. But like Zoro might have had in his head, like, this is going to be a tough fight, but he never thought in a million years that it was going to be that hard. And I think that reality kind of hit him immediately, you know, and there's a little bit of like humbleness to that. But also I think like it's the, scars on the back or a swordsman's shame. It's like he's not going to run away from this fight that he started. So he's kind of he's kind of succumbed to it, and he's gone like, you know what? I have to die this way. If I can't make this, I'm gonna die this way, right? He falls into that pit of despair, and then Dracula Mihawk kind of like sparing him in that way, and Luffy coming to his aid in that way, in the way that he did, and like the fact that Luffy believed in him despite how obvious it was that this was not going to go well for Zoro. And Luffy's kind of like inner turmoil for like whether he should kind of get in the way of that. I think that is kind of what makes Zoro have that moment where he's like, this guy is for real. And like Mihawk, who's this guy now that Zoro kind of looks up to in a way, like it's his ultimate enemy, but it's like, it's who he, now it's like his kind of like his sensei, honestly. He's like, this guy sees something in Luffy that I saw in Luffy. And like everybody who I've seen come in contact with this guy has like opened up. And it's kind of like, it's one of those things where it's undeniable. You can't take away that Luffy is something special. There's something about this kid, you know? And then he has that moment where he's like, you know, I'm going to dedicate it all to you, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's like the perfect kind of French. And that's why Zoro is regarded as the first mate of the Straw Hat Pirates, because he's the perfect, like that moment, that was all he needed. It was all of that. It was just like, Luffy is that guy. Luffy is that friend, right? He is something special, and he means something to Zoro. Like I think Zoro kind of sees Luffy as the embodiment of his own dreams, which he gave up on. Because he didn't even, because like, you know, when he was sitting up on that cross, when Luffy found him, that's him giving up. Like he gave up on his dream of becoming the world's greatest swordsman. He still had it in his head, but like it was in the back of his mind. What mattered was, you know, being a bounty hunter, you know? Like he was really just like getting money so that he could drink is basically what it was, you know? And now his whole entire life is turned around. He has a purpose. He has like a real purpose. And it's just the same thing that he's always wanted since the time that he was younger. Okay. So another question that I had though was, obviously you like Luffy. And everybody's answer to this question is always Luffy, but I am curious to see what your answer is besides this. Who's your favorite Straw Hat so far? Besides Luffy, if Luffy is your answer.
Well, he's okay. So this may shock you. He's not.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And it's kind of going to be, it's going to be a toss up for me right now. And the reason why I'm going to say it's toss up because we just haven't got to see as much of this character as the other, there's two that I'm kind of toss up. First one, of course, is Nami.
Okay. Oh, really? Nami's your favorite so far?
Well, that or Sanji.
Okay.
Because I see similarities between both their characters, right? But I think ultimately I probably going to lean more towards Sanji. But again, like I said, we only got to see him for like, you know, basically half of the first season. Right. And we didn't, you know, and even when he was introduced in, I think, episode 4, right? You really didn't get to see anything, you know, but then when, of course, they had the first fight scene there at the restaurant, you got to see that, okay, he does have some skills as a fighter. He's an accomplished chef, okay. But he has this, he has this arrogance about him, right? He's arrogant, as is Nami. They're both very arrogant.
Yeah. Jaded.
Um, yes, jaded. And they're good character. I mean, they're on the right side. They're the good guys, but there's still this little bit of undertone there where you know they're not either.
They're
It's kind of
pirates.
like yes, it's kind of like if I could tie. It's
Yeah.
kind of like Han Solo, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Han Solo did the right thing whenever push came to shove, but it was always kind of a struggle for him,
Mm.
because he was always more self-preservance, money in his pocket, right?
Hmm.
And that was it. It's just him and his first mate, Chewie,
Yeah.
and I kind of see these same type of uh, tendencies in both of those characters, and those are the type of characters that I'm more drawn to because those are always the characters that have the most growth. Seems like to me in a series
Sure.
than
Oh yeah. Yeah.
someone like a Luffy, right?
Yeah. No, Luffy doesn't.
Yeah,
Luffy's growth is very like his whole the point of his whole
yeah,
character is that he's kind of set from the beginning,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah,
Whereas like you said, yeah,
yeah,
Nami and
yeah,
Sanji and even Zoro and Usopp, they all
yeah,
have like big character growth moments, big character arcs.
yeah,
Like they don't
yeah,
change really,
yeah.
but they have moments where they realize stuff about themselves.
But see, the thing that for me, people like Zoro and Usopp, right?
Mhm.
They are quintessential. They're good, right? There's no like you don't see any like rogue spirit in them, right?
Mm.
They're I mean they're like with Zorro. I mean he's uh he's a
Well,
he
the
wants to
introductory
limit.
scene is
Yeah,
him like the little girl coming over and then dropping the thing because
yeah,
the ass marine dude
yeah,
just kind of whatever's messing with this little girl who is just trying to get like a little rice ball for him. He picks
yeah,
it up off the floor and he eats it and he says, that's really good. And then he makes the
yeah,
other guy try, eat it. And that's like
yeah,
it's not done exactly the same way in the manga. It's actually, that's another moment that I kind of wish was done more similar to the way that it was done in the anime and the manga. In the anime and the manga, the way that that scene plays out, it's actually Zoro is already on the cross, like already up on
yeah,
the stocks by the
yeah,
time Luffy even gets to that island.
yeah,
Um, and so the little girl coming up to him, the reason why she's trying to feed him is because he's already been there for like 7 days or something.
yeah,
And I guess there was like a time before that wasn't on panel or on screen where like Zoro kind of stood up for her. And so she was trying to pay that back. And
yeah,
he's like, oh, get out of here, get lost, kind of a thing. And then that's when Helmeppo comes up and he's like with the little girl and then, steps on it and shit. And then Zoro's like, I want to eat that. And then, I think the little girl kind of feeds it to him and he's like, oh, that's really good. Like do more kind of a thing.
yeah,
And that's like it's a, he's good. Like good is good is good. Zoro is a
yeah,
good guy, whether he wants to be or not. And he doesn't want to
yeah,
be. It's like, you almost
yeah,
get that sense.
yeah.
Um, God, man, it's so interesting that you said, because I've never thought about Nami and Han Solo being similar characters, but you're right.
Mhm.
They very much are.
Yeah,
They're very very similar in a lot of ways. I never really picked up on that, but you're right. It's like Nami is almost kind of like a female Han Solo.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm always more drawn to the rogue or the scoundrel of a
yeah.
group. Um, because and here's the thing too. The way that they always write these stories is the scoundrel, the rogue, the Han Solos, the Namis, the Sanjis, they're ultimately they're always going to make the right choice. And sometimes even the sacrificial choice, right? For the betterment of the group. You always know that, right?
Hmm.
But on these rare occasions, they'll write them where they let the other side of their nature take control,
Mm,
and they will abandon and turn their back on the group and and leave them to their fate.
mm.
Um, and those to me usually are even the more interesting. I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah.
Well, it's interesting too because Nami, the way that she's portrayed in the live action, and I'm sure that they're going to do a better job of kind of portraying this. And I know why they did this. But Nami in the live action is portrayed much more as a fighter. Like she has
Yeah,
fight scenes where she fights.
sure.
In the live action, or I'm sorry, in the anime and the manga, she is not a fighter. Like
Yeah,
she's just a normal person. Like she's not
yeah,
like, she's just a navigator. She's a thief. She's got all that skill set and everything, but she's not a fighter. Like she might be able to do fisticuffs with like another girl or something like that, but she's
yeah,
not going to be throwing down with any Marines. Certainly not like
yeah,
a whole fleet of Marines like that
yeah,
scene in the first episode. I love that scene. It's great. It looks cool and it's great. But like really the people that did the work was really the way that I think any of those scenes should be portrayed is that Nami is the one who basically runs away and is just trying to evade attacks. Later on, she does get ways that she can kind of like help out with those types of things, but she is not a heavy hitter at all, right? So
yeah,
Nami being a little bit more selfish and like self-preserving um does happen later in the series, but it's more from that place of like she just knows that she's not going to be able to do anything here.
yeah,
She's more of a liability, if
yeah.
anything. I don't want because I don't want you to go forward with this like with a a thought in your head that may not happen that way. Nami doesn't really have like after this moment where she kind of like she has her it's more self preservation than it is like her
Sure.
selfish tendencies or anything. She's not going to sell out any of the boys at all after this. Like she's good. Like she's set. You know.
Yeah. Well,
Um.
I didn't figure she probably would. I
Yeah. Yeah.
figured that they would go with the and it does make sense that she's not necessarily a fighter
Yeah.
because of the way that she was, when you understand what her backstory is, and the way she's raised,
Yeah.
she's going to use her wit. She's going to use her brain. She's going to use her looks.
She's the thinker.
Uh,
Yes. Exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
she's going to use those because those are the assets that she has at her disposal.
Right.
It's not like she was like Zoro, who was trained to fight, right? Or even Luffy, who had to fight on the streets. I mean,
Well, we learned this
um,
at the end of the series. I mean, Luffy
yeah,
was Luffy was trained too. He was trained by
his
uh
grandfather.
yeah,
Yes.
Vice Admiral Garp, which is a
Yeah.
huge deal. Garp is like I'll give you a little bit thing here too. This is again not spoilers because it's like deep lore stuff, and I don't even know if they'll ever cover it to be honest.
Sure.
Um, Garp is known as the hero of the Marines. He's like if you were to ask somebody in the One Piece world, like
Mm.
who is a big time Marine, like who is like the number one Marine in your book,
Yeah.
they would answer Garp. Garp is the guy, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like known as like the strongest person ever. Like
Mhm.
he's that big of a deal. Um, so it's like man, there's just so much lore. It's like it's so sad because like this is what ends up happening to me too. Whenever I talk One Piece with people, is I just want to go like, oh, but this happens, and then this happens, and this is
Yeah.
connected to this, and like everything's connected.
Yeah, but you don't want to let the cat out of the bag.
No, 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 I
So,
don't. But I will say, um,
but you won't say.
I won't say, but I
You won't say.
I
But
won't
you
say,
will won't to.
but I will say,
What we will say is this
yes,
is if you hopefully we haven't given up too much here to prevent you from watching.
yeah,
Because I would highly encourage you to watch. It's an easy watch. It is a show that you could binge on a weekend where I mean you grab your snacks and you watch them.
it's like an adventure serial. It's really
yeah,
it's like a
it's
popcorn flick,
um and uh it is worth to me, it's worth the time. I don't know how long it's going to be before they come out with season 2. And I may have to actually go back and watch season 1 again before if
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
too long of a period of time.
sure.
But I don't think if I have to do that, I don't think I would mind it,
Hmm.
honestly.
I'm on my second watch through of it.
Well, of
I'm
course you are, but Max, that's this show, even the cartoon of this show, this this is your show. I mean, this is what I mean. You talk about this and all the
But you know
time.
what's funny
So
is that it didn't used to be that way. I actually was a huge holdout for this show. I would if you had asked me about a year ago from right now what
yeah,
I thought about One Piece, I would say it is obnoxious. Its art style is atrocious. It is like only popular because of how many episodes it has. I don't understand why it has so many episodes. Why would anybody watch all of that?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? You know, like these characters are silly. Like all of these things, and then I actually gave it a chance. You know,
Yeah.
let me ask you though,
Yeah.
for kind of to wrap up, um, because really the reason what I wanted to convey with this, and I think we've done a pretty good job. It's kind of been rambling, so you know, whatever. But I just wanted to say, like, or I wanted to ask, after watching the live action,
Mhm.
are you more likely, and I'm not gonna hold you to this, this isn't a gotcha or anything. Are you more likely, do you feel more of a want to watch the anime now that you've seen the live action?
Um, it is being recommended to me by Netflix now, of course, because I
Of
watched the
course.
live action, you know.
Sure.
Um, it is possible. I am actually like neck deep in another series that I'm watching right now.
Oh, what you watching?
Deep Space Nine.
Oh, I need to
Um,
get on Deep Space Nine. I need to get on all the Star
yeah,
Trek stuff. I need
yeah.
to
Deep
yeah.
Space, Deep Space Nine has been a struggle. I'll be quite honest with you.
Mhm.
Until it's got I think it's 7 seasons. I'm about halfway through the fourth. The fourth season is when I really started liking the series. The
Mm,
first three were just little tidbits here and there that I liked, but for the most part, it was a lot of misses, very few hits.
mm.
Um, but this is not what this one
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
shows this, but yeah, I'm just kind of going back and rewatching a lot of these series that were on when my life was so much more busier, you know, raising
Yeah.
kids and working my full head off, and I didn't get to watch them, and so I'm going back and rewatching some of these beloved TV series by a lot of people, just so that I can be a little bit more knowledgeable and talking about it.
True.
Um, but I would not say that I would not watch the animated series of One Piece.
Mm.
Just not right this moment because, like I say, I've already got another series that I'm watching. But
So come
it's
aboard and bring
yeah.
along all your hopes and
There's
dreams.
there
Yeah.
was one little thing that just struck out to me as funny, and this is hilarious.
Okay.
So, you know, because again, I'm trying to talk in a way as so as not to, because I don't want to give spoilers. I want people to go watch and enjoy the series because I do think it is worth the investment of time. Um, but you know, when they get their ship, right?
Mhm.
There's a scene where Luffy climbs out onto the whatever it's called, the
The deck of the
bow,
ship.
the
Yeah.
bow of the boat where he's actually out on the figurehead on the front of the
Oh,
boat,
it's
right?
his spot. Yeah, that's his spot on
Yes,
the
it's
Mary.
his little spot, right? All and he's yelling, right? He's doing his little
Yeah.
thing that he does, and all I could think of was those YouTube videos I've seen of those screaming goats.
Ah!
Does that make sense to you?
I get
Does that?
that. I get
Yeah,
that. That is
yeah,
kinda what it's like. I mean, it's the same
yeah,
energy. It's just like,
yeah.
"Ah!"
Yeah, it really is. But no, this is
Aw.
what I'll say is that this is a series that you can easily digest. It's not a deep thinker. It's as far
Not
as
yet.
it's not yet. It's not. It's very. There's some very heartwarming, heart tugging moments. There are some life lessons, some good takeaways, even from the 8 episodes that were shown.
Mhm.
Um, we didn't even get into the relationship between Sanji and the old cook,
Oh, yeah.
which is a very very
Wasn't that story amazing?
it
Like,
really
wasn't
was it really
yeah. The
was
story that's what I'm saying, like, the
yeah,
backstories are always
on these
so good.
characters, yeah.
So good.
So watch it.
Yeah.
I don't think you will be disappointed, even if you're like me, right? And you're not okay. Anime. I'm not. It's just not what. If you like pirate stories and you like a little bit of maybe superhero-y type tales, you'll like this.
Yeah.
you'll like this series. It's very enjoyable. So
I am so I am deeply I am overjoyed that this series is as good as it is. It's not perfect. I stand by my number, which I had stated, I think, on Twitter. Um, it's an 8 out of 10 for me. You know, it's like it's very good. Like it's not like that's not a bad score at all. Um, it's there's so much there's so much more, you know, and I can't wait to kind of like have everybody see that and like to understand what all of that is. Um, the series gets so it does get deep, you know, it gets into things that you would never think, like, because it makes sense. Like narratively, there's a lot of ground that they can cover in a lot of different ways, right? Just from the concept alone, they get into slavery, they get
yeah,
into, you know, war, like the effect of war. They get into sins of the father. They get into um you know, doubt. They get into cowardice. They get into like all of these things, like it's human stuff, you know, but
yeah,
not in a ham-fisted sort of way, in a way that's always like introspective and very like what's going on here? How do we become better people, you know, for ourselves, but also for our friends. I love this show. I love this series. I have tremendous respect for it. I'm very, very happy that it is done as well as it has, and I'm very happy that I'm pretty sure that they are um, going to, you know, do more, because I'm pretty sure they will. I mean, it's number one still on Netflix, and has been for quite a minute, and I think it's broken records and all sorts of other stuff. Um, and you know what's the craziest thing, Peepaw?
what's
Is
that, man?
that even for somebody like me, I am so engrossed in the lore. I go out of my way to watch videos about the lore of this franchise. I go out of my way to read the manga. I read most of the manga. I've seen most of the anime at this point.
Mhm,
I am deep in it. I'm in the thick of it. You know, there was stuff that happened in the background of this show that we've like as fans of One Piece, we've never seen before. And it's like stuff that like affects the way that we all, like even the deep fans, even the people who are in the weeds of it, see the show. And it's not bad. It's good. The fact that a live action, because like so many of these before, the fact like they've been so bad. Like there's been so many really terrible live action anime. The fact that this could come out in this way and do that and be effective and get people like yourself or others, you know, who have been kind of averse to anime, to kind of be like, yeah, no, you know what, this was really good, and I want to give this more of a shot. Um, I'm just so proud. So you know, I know for a fact nobody from the show would ever watch this, but just putting it out into the ether, you nailed it. You did perfect. Like keep going, don't stop. You know, I think that if everyone watched, this is such a stupid hammy thing to say, but I think that if everybody watched One Piece, I think the world would be at peace. I really do.
oh, you're crying.
I really do. No, I really do. Because like the thing, it's
No,
oh
come
yeah.
on,
Oh yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. No, because it is like if you really understand, if you really internalize, if you really care for these characters and you really think hard about this stuff, I think that you do become better as a person. I'm not kidding. It is it's also you know what? Fuck it. I'll toilet back into the commentary stuff. And people can make fun of me as much as they want for this. They got my
Mhm,
carte blanche to do it.
mhm.
One Piece has made it easier for me to deal with trouble online. 100%. And not just because it's a distraction, but
Yeah,
because of the way that it's made me think about things, you know? So we'll
I
leave you
can
with
see
that.
that. I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll leave you with that. That's about it. Just wanted to do a quick thing, just kind of talking about the show. If you have any thoughts or feelings, please leave them in the comment section below. I am curious to see what people thought of the live action. Doesn't have to be very long, but I would appreciate it. You know, comments help on the video, and the like would surely be appreciated too. Peepaw, do you have anything to say before we get the hell out of here?
yes. Subscribe.
Yes, subscribe. Subscriptions especially help. Yes. I am actually getting relatively close to 500. And once I do that, I can get memberships. So, yeah, I mean, I would appreciate it. I saw a shout out to Jessica Pizzle, who shouted me out amongst all the shenanigans that were kind of happening. I appreciate that. That was I always appreciate it. So yep, that's about it. And well, oh shoot, I forgot. There was a question I was supposed to ask before.
You want to see my Pecker?